Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Hello?
What's your favorite scary movie? Hello, Sydney. It's an honor.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Loud, a pop culture podcast special event series, Scream, Ranked and Reviewed, and this is the finale of the series. I am your host, Tomye West. Alongside me is my co-host as always, is Alanis Maximus, and we're here for the big one. We're here for the big finale. We're here for Scream 2022, Ranked and Reviewed, the finale in our Ranked and Reviewed series. How you feeling, Alan? How you feeling about this?
I'm feeling good. It was a good time, and I'm still having a good time thinking about it. I'm happy to be talking about it, and it was just good. Good.
It was good. Now, before we get into things, before we get into anything, we're going to explain the way this episode's going to run for you all. Now, we're going to give our opinions, we're going to give some impressions, we're going to give our overall thoughts without spoilers to begin with. And then we're going to give you a firm warning when spoilers are going to kick in. And that's on you to make that call then. If you want to sit through the spoilers, if you haven't seen the movie, and hear our final thoughts and verdict. And if you don't want to, well, go see the movie, wait till you get to see it, and come back and join the discussion again from the part you didn't get to see with the spoilers. So I hope everyone understands that. Alan, are you happy with that? That's how we're going to go?
I'm happy with that, and most of all, I hope Ghostface listened to that, because he did give us a stern warning, so Ghostface, I hope you're happy with that.
Exactly. In case you're wondering what we're talking about, referring to at the start of the movie, this isn't a spoiler, so, it's more a warning of a spoiler that we got in the cinema, which was surprising. Just before the movie started, before we even got any of the logos for the movie, companies that are the production companies, we got Ghostface warning us that the number one rule of this movie, when you see it, is to not spoil it and ruin it and talk about it at the end of the movies, which me and Alan had a very good giggle about in the cinema, because I was thinking of leaving the cinema, with the line, everyone lining up to go to see the next session of it, being like, "Can you believe it was Darth Vader? Whoa!" So, yeah. So overall impressions. Let's give our overall impressions. First of all, I really liked the movie. I thought it was a fun watch. I definitely recommend you go see it in theaters, because it is an experience, especially with the sound. I believe the Dolby Digital surround sound, I believe, was just on point for this movie, and it makes for a much more enjoyable sort of experience all around. I also believe seeing it on the big screen is the way to go, and also going in and getting that sense of excitement rather than waiting for home video and sort of watching it on a smaller screen and having that build up sort of be less effective, I guess. Alan, what do you think?
I agree 100%. I think for the full effect, I think definitely you either want a really good damn home theater or to see it at the cinemas, because the Dolby Digital was on point. It actually kind of made me kind of go, huh? A couple of times.
Yeah.
So, yeah. You don't want to lose out on that, I don't think.
No. And, what was your overall thought on the casting, the legacy characters, the new characters, that sort of thing?
I think it was the least painful new cast since the second movie, which I really liked. I just hated. I mean, maybe it was their job to be abhorrent in the third one, but I hated most of the characters in that. The fourth one was all right, but this one, I actually had a lot of fondness for a lot of the characters, if not most of them.
Yeah, I agree totally. There was some surprise sort of appearances. There was some awesome, reveals, which obviously we're not going to get into. And there was just some really cool ideas with the story that I thought wasn't a retread of the same formula. I sort of felt like it was this is a new era of Scream. I felt like this is a great way to bring in that new era, and I'm really hoping that we do get this trilogy that this is intending to be, with the remaining cast that we have from this, like still being a part of the next installment. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and I mean, overall, like, how do you think the Ghostface was this time? How do you think he was portrayed this time?
I liked him a lot. He was especially at the very start, it was a different approach, a clearly different approach in the way he talked and the way he acted, and I really like that. I really like this Ghostface.
Yes, and I think that the trailer does a good job of masking elements where you think they'll be somewhere else in the movie. Shots, certain things. I think the trailer did a good job of throwing us off with parts that seemed to be in certain areas that they weren't. And so if you watch the trailer, it really doesn't give a lot away, I believe. I believe there's some shots in the trailer that also didn't make the movie. One of them being, I don't know if you saw it, Alan, which is Ghostface is doing this and you see his shadow on the wall.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe that was in the movie, was it?
Not that I noticed, no.
No. Yeah. So, I mean, it's really hard to talk about this movie without getting into the nitty-gritty of it all. So, I mean, when should we cut this off, man? When should we do the spoiler? When should we let everyone know that spoilers are kicking in? I think now.
It's difficult not to spoil things, and I don't want to shoot anyone in the dick out there and drop something. It's hard, isn't it?
Exactly, because I'm trying to talk about it in a way that's not giving anything away. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's kind of hindering my sort of thoughts on the whole thing because I'd like to talk them out.
Yeah.
So I guess we're just going to do a big X here. X going to give it to you. Spoilers from now on. Again, X going to give it to you.
Spoilers. You've been warned.
So it's on you now. 3, 2, 1. I can't believe it was Darth Vader. Okay, so one of the main things I want to bring up is the Billy Loomis appearance.
Yes, I can still remember pretty much an audible "what the fuck" from both of us when that happened.
Exactly. We literally saw this movie at 4:10 today. It is now 7:47 p.m. So we literally saw the movie, got home, got our shit together, and started recording. So audibly, we both said, what the fuck, when this Billy Loomis appearance happened. I mean, what did you think when it came up? First of all, my first thing, I just want to say, I was like, is this CG? And then was it CG on Billy Loomis coming back and them recreating his face to look like he did when he was back then? Or was this another actor with the CG face of Billy Loomis on it? That's what I want to know. What are your thoughts on that?
I'd like to know as well. I've got a feeling it's probably him and he's just been given the touch-up. Yeah, they're getting pretty damn good with that kind of thing, so it could be either way without officially looking.
And it sort of was an enjoyable experience every time that appearance came into the movie. I was intrigued by that, you know what I mean? I was like, ooh, like, I just want to see more of this, you know what I mean? And how did you think that connection with Billy Loomis to the story, the plot was? Do you think that held weight? Do you think that was a good plot point? How do you feel about that?
I think it was pretty great. I think it was the best they've done connecting it back. Like, I think Billy's mum in the second one was questionable, whereas this tie back, it was less tacky. It was, hey, this kind of, I can see this happening.
Yes, completely. Some other plot points that I want to say. First of all, we're in spoiler territory, so as I said, we're warning you. But I'm kind of bummed with one aspect to this movie, and I might have told you that in the theater. I think I did, which was that I had picked one of the killers ages ago. By watching this trailer, by watching everything to do with that I have with Scream, I picked Amber as the killer. And so when it was revealed that it was her, I was a little bit not shocked. You know what I mean? So for me, that kind of, I don't know if that was on me because I might have looked into too much and had some stuff spoiled for me that I don't remember having spoiled for me, but kind of maybe it twisted itself into thinking I hadn't been spoiled, then seeing the trailer and connecting it all. I have no idea what happened, but I predicted Amber. I didn't predict Richie. But I do believe that I think that may have been spoiled for me as well, but it wasn't a memory I have of it. So, I mean, what about you? Who did you have picked at the start, and were you shocked at the reveal at the end?
I had I think it was Vic picked the chick with the red hair gets shot in the face, but at the same time, the whole time I'm thinking, no, that's too obvious.
Yeah, it was too. It was too in your face. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the whole movie with forgotten his name, boyfriend, other killer. I was
Richie.
on and off. I'm like, it's him. It's not him. It might be him.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
And you know what? I was thinking the same thing every now and then, and you know why? Because he was very likable. And what have we said about every one of these fucking movies? Is that majority of the time, minus number 3, it's the likable one. You know what I mean? Maybe not so much even in Scream 4, but in Scream 1, Scream 2, that pattern was Stu. You really like Stu. You really like Mickey. And you really, really like Richie in the new one. So I was kind of thinking, oh, there's something to that because that's kind of been the MO for some of these movies, you know what I mean? But also, how did you feel about I'm going to just say it, the lack of inclusion of Sidney Prescott in this movie? I thought it was very noticeable.
I was interested. I can remember at one point in the movie, probably about halfway through the middle act, going, well, I guess she was just a cameo and I'm a sucker.
That's what I thought. I thought it was very weird how little she was included in it. Even Gail Weathers had more screen time. Well, Courtney Cox had more screen time than Neve Campbell did. I almost feel like, it was another sort of Scream 3 situation where they didn't have access to Neve Campbell for as long as they wanted and kind of wrote it around that fact, or if maybe this could have been their intention the whole time, which was to kind of have her a part of it, but kind of not so much that it didn't have enough to let the new characters in to shine. You know what I mean? So, and another thing that you guessed and me, we both kind of guessed it, but you mainly guessed it, was that Dewey is no longer a part of the Scream franchise. Dewey.
And not only that, I picked it in that trailer. If you go back to our last review, I said he is dying in this scene. We have seen the beginning of his death.
You did, and we did. We saw the end of Dewey as sheriff. Well, he was already the end of not a sheriff. He was retired. But we saw the end of Dewey as a cast member. He bit the dust in this movie. And how do you feel about it? How do you feel about that being what happened?
His entire role in this movie felt very Han Solo in The Force Awakens. Like, you could tell from the start of it, you're like, yeah, he doesn't want to. He's dead. Like, the second he showed up and the way he acted, it's like, yeah, you're dead. You're dead, Dewey. I know this. You know this.
But I will say, I really enjoyed his character a lot more in this movie than previous installments. I believe his acting was a lot more. It was way more up to standard. I feel like he wasn't as B grade feeling of a cast member, you know what I mean? Because I do feel like that was his sort of thing through this whole series is he's had the B grade sort of feeling to him where he's like not the strongest actor. And I feel like he nailed it more in this one than previous installments. How do you feel about that?
I agree, but I also like at the same time there were some brief moments where they still slightly threw him back to that comical side when he's like first messaging Galen. He's like, I shouldn't have put that smile there. It's like,
yeah.
that's the goofy Dewey for a moment.
And the same thing about him sitting in the party, not in the party, on the couch and saying, I feel like I shouldn't have come here now, and things like that. You know what I mean? So, I totally agree.
And
but
his
also,
limp. He finally learned how to limp.
that was the weird thing. That's what you asked me in the theater. You're like, why did his limp come back? Because in the fourth one, the limp wasn't there, yeah?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure that limp was gone, and now he has the limp back. And I don't know, anyone that's watched our previous Scream reviews will know that we've had a constant problem with that limp since Scream 2, because it's a shit. It doesn't even look like it's a real limp. You know what I mean? So, and the part that I have to bring up is when we audibly laughed because of the Dewey music soundtrack coming back to it, which I've always had a problem with again. But they did it, and I don't know, I can't help but to commend them on sticking to using that theme. How do you feel about it as well?
I was hoping it didn't happen because this is the massive orchestral dramatic crescendo kind of thing, but I was hoping for a melancholy version of that theme as he died. I really wanted that, but it didn't happen.
And the other part that me and you both went, in the movie was when we realized that the metal mask Ghostface with the flamethrower was a part of the Stab movies and not actually in the movie like the trailer suggests.
That was a pretty brilliant throw off there because that had the internet talking to, the metal mask.
Yeah, and then that was cool because at the end when Amber is on fire, the way they cut that trailer together made it look like Ghostface was killing Amber and she was on fire from the flamethrower. Yeah. So that was a throw-off. But that kind of what made me go, I reckon it's that Amber chick. But there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of things that shoot through my head as to why that I ended up guessing that. But, tell me some more things that you really liked about the movie.
I liked that I think the whole premise of the movie was, I've seen a lot of reviews and opinions on it with people saying, it didn't break the mold much, but I think that was the premise of it. And I think especially if you consider this is a crossover point to a new era, I think it did pretty well at remaining the same as very close to the first one while being subtly different. Like the first kill in the movie survives the whole movie, and she's kind of the one of the main supporting kind of survivors we're probably going to see on for the next 2 or 3. I think they did it really cleverly where they kept the same formula, but they started twisting it for a transition and they gave it a good meaning behind it as well. Like, it was justified because the killer set this all up to be this way. Like, her motive was they moved into Stu's house and from there met the other killer and kind of wove their web. I think it was really intelligent that way, and I think we're going to see it more unfold and become a bit more probably different and evolved for the next movies, I think.
I agree. I think that this movie had to do what it did in order to solidify this as a solid entry into the series. Because I feel like if it broke the mold too much, as the movie says itself, that's too much for the true fans of this movie that want that throwback, that want that continuation of a story that shouldn't have been continued probably the way it was continued. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, some things I really liked about the movie was I really loved the brutalness of Ghostface's stabs this time. Like, it wasn't just 1, 2, 3. Majority of the time, it was fucking 17, 20, 25 stabs just going at it. And, that's what I love from that Ghostface. The other thing I liked was he sort of, his own throwbacks to being like, this is like the original movie, you know what I mean? So he's sort of own throwbacks to himself, or the previous killers from the first installment. I really like that. I really, again, like the setting of Woodsboro as the backdrop. I think Woodsboro is compelling on its own as a character, kind of like I feel with Gotham City with Batman. That's how I put it, where Woodsboro, if it can't be set anywhere else without it feeling too different, which Scream 3 showed us is the case. Scream 2, not so much because it was set on a university campus that felt very much like it was Woodsboro, even though it wasn't. But Scream 3 took us completely out of that setting, and I don't think it worked. And Scream 4 returned to Woodsboro, and as you know, I put Scream 4 at number 2 on my list when we last left it. So I think that Woodsboro plays a big part into how I feel with these movies. And the setting of these movies create. How do you feel about that?
I agree completely. I think the police in Woodsboro are getting more and more useless as well. It's interesting.
Definitely. Another legacy, I guess you could say, legacy character wasn't brought until Scream 4 was Officer Judy.
Yes, it's good to see her.
It was good. And there's some things I have question-wise about that didn't line up with that. Like, did she ever mention in Scream 4 that she had kids? Because she was trying to hit on Dewey a fair bit and making him lemon squares and stuff like that in Scream 4. And you could tell it was that she was very into Dewey. And I don't believe that she mentioned that she had kids at any time at that point. And they do mention in this movie that it was back in 2011, this is the same thing that happened. So her son was much older than 11 years old in this movie, Wes.
Yes.
By the way, which was a nice touching tribute to Wes Craven, naming that character Wes. But yeah, that's one thing that's maybe one connection that I'm sitting there going, I don't think she mentioned that she had kids. She was trying to hit on Dewey. Now she's got a son who's like 16, 17. So that was one thing. I don't know. Did you think about that at all?
Yeah, I think I don't think it was mentioned, but I think it conveniently kind of slid in there. Like she didn't really need the elaboration for, so it kind of it's an acceptable thing. I think it's like probably was never by design, but it's also
it was definitely acceptable, and it was something that I didn't want to nitpick too much, which is why I just kind of threw it together and asked you what your thoughts on that were, because that was one of the only things timeline-wise that I was like, you know what I mean? But it wasn't so bad that it broke the mold or broke the feeling of the movie, you know what I mean? Also, we've got to talk about it. How did you feel about the opening of the movie, with the opening kill, the opening thing? How effective do you think it was, and how do you think it stacks up to the beginning of the other 4 movies in the series?
I think it set the stage pretty well for subtle differences by having Tara live. And my first initial reaction from that, when they've gone, she's lived, was me going, oh shit, that's different. But it was still a solid opening. Like live or die. It did kind of raise one thing that I found a bit weird. I don't know if I'll have to rewatch it to kind of get my bearings on it. And I think it's just going to be a thing in Scream movies because it's kind of happened ever since the third one, where they were filming Amber.
Yep.
But Tara was holding the knife in front of the camera. But the other killer was at the house. I was like, how are 2 people doing this? Like, I don't know.
Well, I'm guessing that that's going to be what I was going to bring up next, which was that because we were seeing this movie for the first time, we didn't really pay much attention to who could have been the killer at what point and stuff like that. We really didn't think too hard into that this time. We kind of just went in and took the movie for what it was. We usually like to dissect it a little bit and try to work out who we think was behind the mask, but at each point in the movie. But I'm the only one I think might be Amber killing Dewey.
Yeah, I agree there.
Just because of the way she said he died like a little bitch.
Yeah.
So, yes. That's what I was going to bring up with you was, did you think you noticed anything of who else could be the killer behind certain points of the mask or? whatever.
I think it was her as well that stabbed the twin when they're reenacting the Randy scene. She's going up like that. I think that was her as well, because she was the one that was all for the kind of recreation of Billy Loomis element.
Yep.
I don't know for sure, and I could be wrong, but I'm fairly sure Wes and the sheriff weren't her, though. I'm pretty sure that was... Yeah.
We got to remember that there are points in Scream 2 when Sarah Michelle Gellar's character is getting killed off, that she's on the phone to Ghostface and he manages to duck in behind her and that person isn't on the phone, yeah? So we've got to remember that there are possibilities of someone being on the phone while the other killer is doing whatever in the house, you know what I mean? So that's one thing we have to take into consideration when we think about those sorts of things.
This one also, I think, in some ways will make it a bit harder too, because you saw in the hospital scene, he has the device in the mask. So he's obviously got a hands-free in there because he's talking on the phone through the mask with the voice changer on.
Yep.
Which I think, that muddies it up, muddies the waters a little bit there as well. But at the same time, I like that. Because it can make some of those kind of, but what, a bit more believable.
Yeah, and the question I also have is, how was there only one policeman in the whole of that hospital the entire time?
And where the fuck was everyone?
Yeah, where were the nurses? Where were the doctors and the nurses? Because that place was fucking... It may as well have been in the middle of nowhere. You know what I mean? But I think that the scene was so compelling at that point too, that once you were watching it, it didn't really... The backdrop didn't really matter as much. You know what I mean? I don't know if you felt the same, because I remember sitting there thinking, watching it going, where is everybody? This is highly unlikely that this amount of time of shit going on. I mean, they had plenty of time. They fought Ghostface. They shot him. They pushed him into the bookcase thing. They walked to the elevator. They said their little goodbyes on the elevator. They shut the door. He walked back, reloaded his gun. There is still nobody to be seen. Then Ghostface stabs him over and over. And then, not even that, as the camera's panning out, Ghostface just stands there and looks at him dead on the ground for a little while. And the only reason we're saying all these events in chronological order like this is because this is in a hospital. And there's no one around this entire time.
I put it down to they're in Woodsboro and all the doctors and all the patients just gone, fuck this.
Exactly. So, I mean, that's kind of a weird drawback, I guess you could take from the movie. But as I said, the scene was so compelling and what was happening on screen was so compelling, with it being Dewey's death and that sort of stuff, that the backdrop kind of sort of distances itself and you don't think about it as much because of the events happening in front of you on screen. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I'm still like, mulling over things as we talk, man, because it's just, I think this is the quickest we've done a review after watching a movie.
Yeah.
You know? So
I can guarantee you we're going to be talking about this for the next couple of days and going, but what about that?
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we revisit this movie for that.
I already want to see it again so I can pick up on the things that they do through these movies, which is give you subtle nods, give you subtle clues that you wouldn't pick up on unless you rewatched it and knew the outcome of the movie, So I'm very keen to already go back and see this movie again. But the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was that I had something in my mind that I was like, fuck, we need to talk about that, which was, early on, I've lost what I was saying. I'm going to think what I was thinking of. Anyways, there's just a lot going through my head still that I'm processing. But, I mean, it's just hard to talk about even any more, like, in-depth than we are because, as I said, it's the first time we saw it, and I'm sure there was so much subtlety that we just didn't know. Like, that's right. Now I remember what I was going to. Do you remember at the end of this movie there was a slight nod to Scream 4 where they said, this isn't a fucking movie. And he said, it will be.
Yes. I picked up on that. I'm like, hey.
And that's what I was trying to get to. That's what got lost in my head for a second. I was like, wait, where am I? You know what I mean? But then I remembered that that's something that we both kind of picked up on in Scream 4, and that happened again in this movie. And I really liked that sort of callback. You know what I mean?
I feel I can't remember his name for the life of me, but the boyfriend, the male killer. I feel he had a lot of vibe about him where he was kind of, his character was very comparable to Billy and Timothy Oliphant from the second one. I can't remember his name. Mickey.
Yep.
I feel he even himself was a homage to those two, which I found very
definitely
good as well.
And I feel like Amber's sort of craziness at the end, where she was like doing weird little like ticks and stuff. You know, I think there was a part where she was like ee to somebody or whatever. I felt like she was being the stew.
Yes.
At that point. But I mean, what do you think about Courtney Cox's sort of inclusion in this movie? How do you think she sort of measured up to Gail Weathers in previous installments?
I liked it, and it kind of, I can remember, I don't know if it was the Scream 3 or the Scream 4 review we did, we were like, why would Gail stay where she is? She's this aspiring reporter. And it actually addressed that, and that was the reason that like they went to New York and Dewey couldn't handle it and left.
Yeah.
I like that they did that, and I think the character evolution of Dewey and Gale across the whole series is just, as a whole, really good. Like,
I feel like that we should have gotten a little bit more of that with Neb Campbell, you know? Like,
yeah.
I feel like we should have gotten more of like an understanding of who she was with now, what she was up to, because we really didn't get much except her running, showing that she has kids, and then arriving and then confirming to us that she has kids, and that's basically all we got from what kind of happened between Scream 4 and now for her, you know what I mean? Whereas Gail Weathers and Dewey, we've got that good sort of understanding of where things went between Scream 4 and Scream 5, you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's one scene as well I forgot to mention that it was tense. It had me going, what's happening? Who are you? When they went back down, and that's when I actually noticed it was Stu's house as well. When we went to the basement, I'm like, that's fucking Stu's house.
Yeah.
When Amber and the female twin, they're having that to and fro, I'm like, someone's going to stab someone. He's going to stab. Almost had a stroke from the nervousness there. I'm like,
and when she says it's maybe because I'm the killer, I was like, oh shit, is this the reveal already? You know what I mean? Like, that would have thrown me off. You know what I mean? Like, that would have like completely thrown me off. Because I wouldn't have picked her being the killer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And how did you feel about like sort of the updated tech that they used with like the phone tracker? How like, you know, you could like location share and then walk and meet that person and things like. How did you think the use of that went? Did you like that inclusion?
I liked it, and I also thought it was that it was clever as well. How he's realized that he's being tracked and he's piffed his phone. I'm like, I like that.
That's really,
didn't work out well for him, but although one thing I think was he the one in the ambulance at the end that gave the thumbs up. Has he lived? Because I didn't quite catch it. Someone was in the ambulance that gave the thumbs up. I'm like, who was that lived there?
Yeah, that's a good question. Was it her brother or?
I think it was, yeah. I liked him, and he was clever. Like, he was stupid for going out there, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it would have been him because Ghostface didn't have a lot of time to finish him off because of the lights from the car. So Ghostface ran off. So I'm guessing that was he survived because Ghostface got scared away from the car lights. So yeah, I'm putting it down to that's who it was. And if anyone watches this and we're wrong, please comment below so that we are more aware. Do you plan on seeing this again in theaters? Do you plan on waiting a bit? Do you plan on seeing it on the old pirate ship, or do you plan on seeing it when it comes released properly? What's your intentions to see it again?
I'm tossing that up. I'm very tempted to see it again in the cinema, just for the audio quality as well, because it's something I'm not going to get again. So I'm thinking maybe while it's there, maybe it might be a good chance. 'Cause it was just, as you said, it was utilized really well. Like it really kind of it sucked you into the atmosphere. I think it was a very well done stereo kind of use of the system.
Well, we're kind of getting to the wrap up of this ranked and reviewed series. I mean, we don't want to get these episodes going any longer than they need to go. We don't want to kind of, drag the conversation out. So right now, I'm going to get Alan to talk to you about 5 reasons maybe why you should go see this movie quickly while I get our results up. And also, Alan, I'll get you to, while you're giving these, just to quickly type in the chat what your review, what your finale list is, because this is it.
Okay, I'd say reason number 1. I will say I've always been someone since Scream 3 that's been a little bit apprehensive with these movies, and kind of been like, is it stretching it out? Is it stretching it out? This doesn't do that. There was nothing about this that made me feel like it was stale. And it's very enjoyable. It is a good homage, as well as that starting point to changing things. Sorry, just I'm shit at multitasking. One moment.
No, that's all right, man. That's
the reason.
That's all right.
It is very brutal, probably the most brutal, I think, in the violence, which I'm a sucker for. I like my gore, and it does it very, very well. A lot of the kills are brutal, and a lot of them are very sadistic too. Like Wes's death, he slowly gets the knife pushed through his neck, and you start like it's. I can see how it could make people squirm, which I don't think there's ever been a moment in the Scream movies where I didn't squirm myself, but I can see that people that might be more sensitive to that thing would be like, oh. that kind of torturous moment.
Yep.
Third one, as we touched on, David Arquette just isn't obnoxious in any way anymore. He was probably my favorite role in the movie.
Yep.
And that moment knowing he was going to die, when he's just like, I've got to shoot him in the head pretty much. I've got to do this. It actually nearly made me go, oh. Because you knew what was coming. And the cast, I think the next one as well, is the cast is just really bloody good. Like, there was no one I didn't like, no one I thought was tacky. Everyone had their kind of place. And for what they were trying to do, it really could have gone south. They could have had a ridiculous story like Scream 3. They could have had obnoxious new characters, but it all slotted well for a transition, and kind of, I think it's also timing as well. The timing is pretty much perfect to have that next generation of teenagers being around that can now be the step downs from, as we saw, the twins were the niece and nephew of Randy.
Yep.
So it all fits together well, and also expands a bit more of Woodsboro as well, and it's solid movie. Very, very solid movie.
I am very close to having your ranking ready to go.
What's the next thing? And the most important reason, they brought back Dewey's theme. Because, I mean, if you don't hear Dewey's theme when he walks in and has to do something dramatic, why are we even watching these movies?
Exactly. All right. Sorry, 1 second, man. I am just getting these looking nice. You know what? I'm just going to write it the same way I did for mine. 1 second. I will bring up my ranking so we can discuss it quickly. My ranking is Scream, followed by Scream 2022, followed by Scream 4, followed by Scream 2, followed by last, Scream 3. What are your thoughts on that list, man?
That is very, very, very spoiler alert, close to how I see it.
Very close to how you see it.
But I see this movie. I could happily have called this they go on about the whole requel thing, and it felt like if we hadn't had Scream 2, 3, and 4, this would be a perfect sequel. Like
Definitely.
it goes. I'm so close to saying it's as good as the first, but there's a
It is.
few little things that just put it that little bit below. Like I'm so close to putting them on even ground.
Definitely agreed. It was a tight thing for me picking between Scream and Scream 2022. I liked both pretty equally, and you know what? Even thinking harder on it, I might even switch them. But for now, I'm going to leave that ranking as it is. I'm pretty happy with that. I believe that nothing should go before the first one. The first one kind of reined it in, and I believe that Scream 2022 is on par with that. But as it is a follow-up, by that, it has to go in second place for me. And now we're going to reveal your ranking, which is Scream 2022, Scream 2, Scream 4, Scream 3. So the only ones we have flipped is Scream 2 and Scream 4.
Yeah.
And they're literally just flipped the opposite way. So we both pretty much fall in the same category of where we ranked this series, where we ranked the newest movie. And it feels good that we got this done. We actually achieved what we wanted to achieve. And we really hope that everyone enjoyed this along as much as we enjoyed doing it. It was a really fun series. I mean, what's your wrap-up thoughts on this, mate?
I think, as you said, it was a very fun little journey, and it's gone very fast. And it's been very enjoyable, and I hope you guys have really dug this as well. And going by what we've been seeing from feedback, likes, interaction, I think you have. So, looking forward to doing this again with next Jackass and
Jackass ranked and reviewed will start next week. But right now we have something to get to, and that's getting this review up ASAP. So. Thank you for joining us for our Loud, a Pop Culture Podcast special event series for our Scream Ranked and Reviewed series. We really enjoyed doing it. I'm your host, Tomye West. This is my co-host, Alanis Maximus. If you could please go like our Facebook page, then that way you can keep up to date with what we're doing. Follow us. We learn about delays, which happen quite frequently because that's just the way it goes. And yeah, if you could support us by also subscribing right now to the YouTube channel, and yeah, commenting and being a part of the community, we really appreciate it. And the support you guys have shown so far, the people that have done this already, we can't thank you enough. And we look forward to bringing you heaps more content in the coming weeks, in the coming week even. So thank you, Alan, for doing the series. And we are signing off. Thank you, everyone. Good night.